Randstad, all distinguished guests, it is a true honor to be here this morning and this weekend here at this very special conference. It's my second Mackinac conference. Quite a privilege to be here all the way from South Africa. And I believe that this is a gathering embodies the unyielding spirit of liberty, resilience and principled leadership that we share as Afrikaner people in South Africa, to also define the Republican Party and the Republican movement here in America. Now, I'm the head of international liaison for a civil rights organization, conservative organization in South Africa with about 700 members. We represent mostly minorities, including the Afrikaner people in our country, and I'm going to talk to you about something more dark than the very hopeful message that we received here this morning. And that is about the increasing persecution of people in South Africa these days. But before I delve into the heart of my message, I must address the shadow that looms over all of us. A stark reminder of the perils we face in the global battle for conservative values. Just last week, on a day that should have been filled with the promise of discourse and debate in the great state of Utah, we all know we lost Charlie Kirk. My own children, my own 3 sons, followed Charlie Kirk on Instagram. And that morning, very early when we got up, we had a 6-hour difference in time. Well, from Utah, it's actually 8 hours different in time. They were all very, very much disturbed by what happened there. And it was clear for me that we have a joint passion for the need to make sure that the next generation have the kind of conservative values that Charlie Kirk wanted them to have. So this death was not merely a personal tragedy for his wife and children. It was a chilling escalation in the wave of violent rhetoric and actions targeted at conservative voices everywhere, from the streets of America to the town halls of Europe and the farmlands of my own country in South Africa. We see that the enemies of freedom are emboldened. They chant slogans of hate. They incite division and they strike without remorse. As Afrikaners in South Africa, we will forever be grateful to Charlie Kirk and his huge contribution to focusing the world's eyes on the murders of farmers in South Africa. He spoke out about that many times over the last few years, and we are very thankful to him and President Trump for exactly doing this. So this morning, thank you, Charlie. We salute you for now and forever. In South Africa, the toxic left-wing rhetoric has a name. It has a tune. I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube. It's called Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer. They're singing in huge stadiums, encouraging the killing of farmers in South Africa, but also very, very much a specific ethnic group. So thank you for giving me this platform this morning to speak not just about South Africa, but for all minorities under siege in this world today. And there's many, many minorities I'm speaking about that increasingly tolerates authoritarianism in the name of progress. Because that is what the left are talking about, always progress. But progress has become authoritarianism. We see it in South Africa, we see it all over Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia. I view it with my eyes every single day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to also warn you in America about what can go wrong. So let me begin with why South Africa is so crucially important to the United States. We're a small country, small economy, and why we as Afrikaners, as a beleaguered minority, must be central to any American strategy in Africa. South Africa is not merely another country on the map. It is the economic powerhouse of the African continent, commanding vast reserves of minerals, 80% of the world's platinum that America also needs for everything from smartphones to electrical vehicles and defense systems. We have huge reserves in all kinds of different minerals, and we all know who also wants that. China. Yes. So beyond the resources, South Africa is also America's gateway to Africa. There's 600 American companies doing business in South Africa. With a sophisticated financial system, the best in Africa, G20 membership, South Africa was, over the last few years, the bridge between the global north and emerging markets in Africa. Trade between our two nations exceeds $20 billion. For us, that's quite a lot annually, supporting jobs in manufacturing, agriculture, and services. Yet, this partnership is fraying under the weight of South Africa's internal decay and external alignments with certain countries that I will soon mention, not only China. America needs a stable, pro-Western South Africa to counter the spread of communism and authoritarianism on the African continent. Without it, China's Belt and Road Initiative will swallow Africa, while Russia's Wagner mercenaries will destabilize more regimes like they've done in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. I can go on about that. And we also know that Iran's proxies are already very, very active in Africa, also in South Africa. So now, the Afrikaner people, my people, we are a minority of about 2.5 million people. That's roughly 4% of the South African population. We represent a cultural and ideological opposition against the left-wing radicalism in our country. We are conservatives at heart, we are family-oriented, we are entrepreneurial, religious, and committed to private property, rule of law, and individual liberty. Very, very close to our heart. Our values align also with the Republican ethos. Think of self-reliance like the pioneers of the American West, or the unyielding faith of the founding fathers. Historically, Afrikaners have been the stewards of South Africa's agricultural heartland, producing 90% of the country's food despite owning only a fraction of the land. And don't believe what the left-wing media like the New York Times and others would like to tell you. It's usually not true. We are the innovators in tech and engineering. If you go to South Africa, you'll find the doctors, the teachers, and the entrepreneurs who built the modern South Africa. Marginalizing us does not just harm a minority, it undermines the very stability that Africa needs in Africa. If America pulls back, the Chinese, the Russians, Iran will fill the space, and we will be destroyed, our future as Afrikaners. So supporting Afrikaners means bolstering a pro-American, pro-freedom force that can help reclaim the continent for democracy. To understand our importance, one must also know our background. It's a story of perseverance, innovation, and tragedy that mirrors the American journey in many different ways. During the 17th century, Dutch people came to the Cape of Good Hope. They established a refreshment station there, and many things happened since then. You know, by the 19th century, the British imperialists came to Africa. They took over this Dutch colony, and then many of our people left the Cape. What is today the Cape Town area and the Southern Cape in South Africa. We moved inward, like we also had here in America, people who moved west. And we've established our own republics, the Republic of the Orange Free State and the South African Republic. Then we had two wars against the British. We won the first war, we lost the second after they put all our women and children in concentration camps, and 10% of the Afrikaner people died in British concentration camps between 1899 and 1901. So, after the war, we were devastated. All our farms were burned down, there was nothing left for the Afrikaner people. But after the war, we decided to forgive. That is the Christian spirit, the right thing to do. We decided to move forward. We built a nation on the principle of self-determination, inventing technologies like the world's first heart transplant, and pioneering conservation efforts that protected Africa's wildlife. Then South Africa since 1994. Now I'm skipping a part, the whole part, the time of apartheid, here between 1948 and 1994. But what happened in South Africa after 1994, when South Africa became a democracy. The Western world, the liberal Western world, and you can go and read what your own President Bill Clinton said in the 1990s about South Africa, they had a vision of a rainbow nation, a Western liberal democracy in Africa. When Nelson Mandela walked free from prison in 1990 and became president in 1994, everyone in the West said there was a miracle. South Africa was an absolute miracle. The end of apartheid promised unity, a country where everyone can come together, we can live in harmony, and we can be an example to the rest of the world. For a brief period, during the 1990s, it looked like that may have been possible. But then we saw the real ANC, the African National Congress, the party that governs South Africa, which are in their heart communists and socialists. And we saw the beginning of state capture, that is large-scale corruption, the destruction of infrastructure, housing, education that fell apart, the indoctrination of children in schools, racial quotas in anything from sports teams to university admissions. I can go on and on and on about what happened in the last 25 to 30 years in South Africa. By 2018, when the current South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa, who was also a few months ago in the White House with President Trump, when he became president, the damage was irreversible. Unemployment was about 30%, youth unemployment about 60%, and inequality at the worst level in South Africa's history, worse than during apartheid. The rainbow faded as tribalism and populism rose. The economic freedom fighters, a far left-wing Marxist political party, led by Julius Malema, openly calls for the nationalization of everything, from farmland, financial institutions, mines, the Reserve Bank, everything we can think of, need to be nationalized. They advocate for land seizures, and they chant the song, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." Liberal ideas of meritocracy and non-racialism have been sacrificed on the altar of revenge politics. And we've seen revenge politics in South Africa, like I fear may happen in the future in America, if you allow that to happen here. You simply can't allow that to happen in the US. What was promised as upliftment became exploitation. What was envisioned as unity devolved into division. The West's blind faith on the model, this idea of Western liberal democracy, was just never realized in South Africa, because we had an ideologically socialist party controlling our country, very, very closely aligned with countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, Russia, China, all the others. That brings me to where South Africa is today and the way forward. As an increasingly failed state, service delivery has collapsed in South Africa. Water shortages affect 40% of people every day. You have in the biggest city in Johannesburg, in some neighborhoods, people only having water in their taps for 3 or 4 hours every day. You have potholes all over South African roads, huge power outages for the last 15 years, and then the brain drain with more than 1 million skilled people leaving South Africa. And you will find some of our young Afrikaner people on farms here in America, in every state. Wherever I drive in the US, I find young farmers working for American farmers. And it makes me sad in a sense. I'm happy for them, but on the other hand, it's sad that they are leaving our great country. So land expropriation will happen in the future. That is what they want, and they want it to happen without compensation. They say it's land expropriation without compensation. The governing party, the ANC, enshrined it in their policy document in 2018, and last year the president signed a new law making land expropriation without any compensation legal in our country. Racial laws, discrimination against minorities are rampant. We have certain targets for companies, racial targets that they need to reach, otherwise they need to pay a percentage of their income every month. We see international companies pulling out of South Africa, also American companies. There are so-called affirmative action quotas that universities and schools and the civil service need to fill. Crime is an epidemic. Over 27 murders every year in South Africa. Over the last 30 years, 3,000 farmers were killed. There is between 5 and 9 farm attacks every week. At least one farmer are killed every week in South Africa. And these attacks are always accompanied with brutal torture. It's older couples living on farms being tortured for hours and hours until they are dead. Farm attacks and murders are not random robberies. They are ethnically motivated, with attackers targeting isolated homesteads, stealing little, inflicting maximum terror. And we are very happy that President Trump actually became the first American president to be willing to talk about that. For the last few months, he's been very, very outspoken about farm attacks in South Africa. Finally, our foreign policy. Our foreign policy as a country has veered dangerously towards authoritarian embrace. South Africa, under ANC influence, has warmed to China, Russia, and Iran. They work militarily closely with Iran. That is really, really concerning. There's naval exercises with China and Iran. All naval, all military cooperation between South Africa and the US stopped recently, like 2 or 3 months ago, which is very sad. We also know that South Africa has a case at the ICJ against Israel. South Africa has become one of the most anti-Israel, anti-Jewish countries in the world. In February 2025 of this year, President Donald Trump issued an executive order addressing South Africa. He spoke about these land seizures, about the position of us as Afrikaners, and he made he's been very, very outspoken since then. The Congress, the US House of Representatives took this up. They approved the bill in the Foreign Relations Committee of the House recently. It will be voted on very soon. In the House, we need to encourage members of the US House to approve this bill. It includes sanctions against corrupt members of the South African government, and that is for us a great priority. In conclusion, my last remarks. My friends, South Africa's story is one of promises betrayed but not yet lost. The assassination of Charlie Kirk reminds us that violence against our ideals are real, but so is our resolve. The chance of kill the Boer and the global assault on freedom, but with leaders like President Trump, we do have hope. I urge you, pressure your government to enforce the executive order that President Trump signed on South Africa, shine a light on farm murders and corruption, support South African civil society with donations, media reports, and access to platforms like this conference. We ask you to counter South Africa's drift towards tyrants by strengthening ties with true partners like the Afrikaner people. Together we can rebuild a South Africa that honors all of its people, a beacon of liberty in Africa, allied with the greatest nation on earth, the United States of America. God bless you. God bless the Republican Party. God bless the great people of Michigan. God bless the Afrikaner population of South Africa, the southern tip of Africa, and God bless the enduring spirit of freedom. Thank you.